We will be talking about the NHL's opening week. On Left Bench Sports.
Cave on, did Alex. No, the Dolphins are not frauds.
All right, we gotta restart
again.
Bad this defense has been. I do not trust them against the Dolphins at all.
Milwaukee Bucks joining the finals this year.
Got a whopping 52 fantasy points in Miami's route of Broncos country.
My 80-year-old grandmother could have broken more tackles and probably made more plays than Mahomes if they gave her a helmet and some football pads.
Welcome back to Left Bench Sports. Today we will be talking about college hockey, Lions vs. 49ers NFC Championship game, college basketball, and the NBA. First game we'll be recapping is the Battle of ComAv, Boston University versus Boston College. So it was a great game.
Yep.
Electric
Huge crowd.
game.
Everyone knew it was going to be electric. Start the game, it was a slow start for both teams. No scoring in the first period. But in the second period, with and like 3 minutes in, Capitals prospect Ryan Leonard started the scoring for BC, assisted by BC's captain, Eamon Powell, and then Rangers prospect Drew Fortescue.
Yeah, Drew's played high school hockey in New Jersey for Don Bosco Prep. So he played 1 year there, though. But then he went to the U.S. national program. But
Yep.
There's a bright future for Drew, and he's going to his hometown team, which is great, too. So BC's second goal was scored with 2 minutes left in the period by Rangers' first-round pick, Gabe Perreault. It was also assisted by the Sharks' fourth overall pick, Will Smith, and Ryan Leonard for a second point of the game. So Leonard with 2 points already in the second period. So
Definitely excited to see Gabe Perreault and the Rangers sometime in the near
so
future.
am I. He also has a bright future.
Yep. In the third period, there wasn't much scoring till 8 minutes left in the game when BU's Jack Hughes, not the Jack Hughes you're probably thinking of, but scored, and it was assisted by Dylan Peterson and Aiden Celebrini to make it a 2-1 to make the game 2-1.
Yep. And then BU pulled their goalie, and BC's Cutter Gauthier scored an empty net goal, assisted from Jack Malone and Aaron Manetian, who's also another New Jersey native. He got drafted by the Dallas Stars. He was on the U.S. national program. He played at Bergen Catholic for 1 year. But two New Jersey natives who played high school hockey in New Jersey are going big, and they're doing well in college, and they're going to go to the NHL. And then BC scored another empty net goal. This time it was from Andre Gasseo, assisted from Jake Benningston, and so which made it a 4-1 game. And that was just BC had a great game, and it was a great battle.
Smitty, what do you think about BC's recruitment for this season?
I think their recruitment for this season was great, getting the top line from the National Development Program, Will Smith, Ryan Leonard, and Gabe Perreault. So, just their recruitment was great. Whoever was, their scouts, just amazing. And then they're having, they're first in the country. They're having the best season that they have had in a while. So, also, on Saturday, BU hosted BC, but BC swept them for the weekend. So it was just a great weekend for BC.
Definitely, yep. The second game we will be recapping is Wisconsin versus Michigan. To start off the game, the Michigan Wolverines scored a power play goal with 1:30 in the game. It was from Dylan Duke, assisted by Gavin Brindley and Seamus Casely. Then Wisconsin came out firing with a goal 30 seconds later from Quinn Finley, and was assisted by Christian Fitzgerald.
Yep, and then Wisconsin made it a 2-1 game, a goal from Carson Brantle, assisted by Ben Dexpier and Joe Palachuk. And then Michigan went on the power play once again and made it a 2-2 game, goal from Nick Moldenhauer, assisted from Frank Nazar. And it was just, this game is going to just go back and forth the whole game.
Yep.
So then Michigan scored 30 seconds later to make it a 3-2 game. Goal from Josh Ernest, assisted by Keenan Draper and Tyler Duke. And it was just – and then on the 4-on-4, Wisconsin's Mateo de St. Pali scored and made it a 3-3 game. And then with 5 minutes left in the first period, Dylan Duke once again made it a 4-3 game on the power play once again.
Yeah. I mean, like, what an offensive period this game was for both teams.
It was just back and forth game throughout. That was just a great period for great first period. I don't even know what to say. Like, it was just all offense, nothing. Like,
yeah, just pure entertainment.
Two teams that are like top 12 in the country going at it, and
you can't put Michigan on the power play.
No, you can't put Michigan on the power play. They're just going to score every single time.
Yeah.
So in the first period, they scored every time on the power play.
Ridiculous.
Their power play is just disgusting.
To start the second period, Wisconsin went on the power play and scored to make it 4-4 with a goal from Simon Tassi, assisted by Quinn Finley and Joe Palachuk. And the rest of the second period was pretty boring.
It was just a boring second period after Wisconsin's fourth goal. It was just
not much going on at all.
Not much going on at all.
Now going into the third period, it's 4-4, and Michigan's Frank Nazar makes it a 5-4 game.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the second point of the game, Frank Nazar. So just a great game from Frank, and then Owen Mallenbacker from Wisconsin makes it a tie game once again. And then going into overtime, shots were 34-34. So it was just a great even game, great match game from both teams. But Wisconsin came out with the win in the end. Christian Fitzgerald scored, assisted from Quinn Finley. So what a game it was. Just a back-and-forth game, the whole entire game. Two of the best teams in the country going at it.
Yeah, I mean, and any sport, Michigan versus Wisconsin is pretty much going to be entertaining, besides when, obviously, Wisconsin's awful at football. But yeah.
And then moving into our last game we'll be recapping is Penn State versus Ohio State. Once again, another great game. Penn State also came out with new jerseys this weekend. It's like a nice white jersey with Penn State script on the crest.
Did they do a whiteout for the game? Yes,
they did. They did do a whiteout. So the atmosphere at Hockey Valley was just incredible. And then people say Hockey Valley is one of the hardest places to play college hockey at, and I probably would agree with them. That crowd on Saturday night last week was huge. But to start the game, it was a very boring first period. First goal on the first goal was scored by Penn State with 50 seconds left. Scored from Jacquin Banquat, assisted from Jimmy Dowd and Matt DiMarsco.
Yeah. And then in the second period, on the power play again, Penn State's Aiden Fink scored a goal, assisted by Matt DiMarsco and Jimmy Dowd.
Yeah. Also, Aiden Fink, he got Offensive Player of the Week, which is cool too. He's just been going off. He went off in this game, but he's last week he's been going off. But to get back to the game, Penn State made it a 3-0 game. Goal scored from Jared Crespo and assisted by Aiden Fink again, and Matt DiMarisco for his third point of the game. He's had a point on Matt DiMarisco has had a point on every goal so far.
Yeah.
Then finally, Ohio State finally found the back of the net from William Smith, assisted from Brent Johnson and Joe Dunlap. And then Ohio State on the power play made it a 3-2 game. Goal from Patrick Guzzo goal scored by Patrick Guzzo, assisted from Stephen Halliday and Theo Wahlberg.
Yep. And then in the third period, Stephen Halliday made it a 3-3 game. And what a comeback from Ohio State, but they couldn't finish the comeback. And Penn State got the game-winning goal from Tyler Paquette, and it was assisted by Ryan Kerwin and Dylan Gratton.
Yeah, it was a great comeback from Ohio State, but they just couldn't finish out the game.
Couldn't finish the job.
They came all the way back, just for Penn State to score in the final 5 minutes.
Yep.
But it was a great game. I would say it was like this whole weekend was just a great 3 games we recapped, but the whole weekend was good games, good back and forth games.
Good jerseys, too.
Good jerseys, too. BC's jerseys were nice, so were Penn State. So it was a great weekend for all the teams in college hockey. But thanks for watching college hockey on Left Bench. Stay tuned as Dean and Jesse will talk about the 49ers versus the Lions.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Left Bench Sports. As always, I'm Jesse Lincoln. Here with me is the great Dean Wilkie, and today we'll be looking at the Lions-Niners game and trying to figure out why Dan Campbell is allergic to field goals. So let's get right into it. Dean, the Lions started off the game with the rock on the first drive, which ended in a touchdown from Jamison Williams. How did you think the Lions did here?
I mean, starting in the first, the Lions definitely had the advantage. It was showing that the 49ers came in unprepared. Offensively, the Lions were, starting off the first drive, the Lions went on a 4-play, 75-yard scoring drive, which was, it just showed 4 plays for 75 yards and a touchdown by Jamison Williams. That's incredible. Just for the fact that, considering we also have, the 49ers front 7 plus, Nick Bosa and a bunch of other guys in the backfield for them on defense, they're definitely not a bad defensive team by any standpoint. It seemed in the first quarter that the Lions had their numbers and they just outperformed them in every way on offense and defense. Both sides of the ball were dominated by the Lions. And this was before, Dan Campbell's decision-making really was poor.
Yeah, he had a few questionable decisions there, I have to say, but, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
He's an aggressive coach, and that's that.
All right, so after the field goal, the Lions went on 11-play, 62-yard scoring drive after the field goal kicked by Jake Moody was failed. The Lions, as before I said, they dominated the first quarter, and it was blatantly obvious to everybody that, it looked like the game was in their favor from the start, but, there's 3 quarters left in the game of football for them for this game. And it came down to the 49ers turning it around the third quarter later on where they really ramped it up and came back after the Lions. Otherwise, besides that, we had the 49ers got the ball back. They started a drive led by a 23-yard reception by Kyle Juszczyk. Otherwise, that offensively for the Lions, Jared Goff was definitely more poised than Purdy with the ball. He was a lot more patient, handled the pressure a lot better than him. Lions ended the quarter 14-7 for the first. So, Jesse, moving into the second quarter, what were your thoughts considering the Lions dominated the first?
Not much really to say about the second quarter. I feel like it slowed down a little bit. Lions definitely still had a better possession of the football, though, during the second quarter. They really kept it away from the 49ers' hands, which, that's what you really want to do if you're Jared Goff and Dan Campbell. But, I feel like the Lions did keep it going, but like I said, they slowed down a bit. They weren't as
they
explosive.
lost a lot of steam in the second quarter.
Yeah, and you saw it kind of just went down on a linear.
It went downhill for them.
Linear slope. You saw it got worse in the third quarter after halftime, and I think the interception that Goff threw really kind of set the tone, and they were forced to field goals from thereafter. So. But anyways, so what did you think about the third quarter, Dean?
The third quarter is when the 49ers really ramped up their game and came back and, fixed whatever they did wrong. Whatever they did after coming out of the locker room from the second half or halftime, they fixed everything they were doing wrong in that second half. Defensively, they were a lot better than they were in the first half. Offensively, Purdy, fixed his mistakes. He was a little more, relaxed with the ball and handled the pressure a lot better. To start the second half, the 49ers went on a 9-play, 50-yard drive, which was finished off by a Jake Moody 43-yard field goal. They played it smart in the third quarter for the game. They went for field goals to start, and then, once they started getting closer, they played more for the touchdowns, and it ended up working in their favor. And then the Lions would go on an 8-play, 47-yard drive, which ended by a failed conversion on 4th down and 2nd on the 49ers' 28-yard line, and then potentially forgoing a made field goal. As we said before, Dan Campbell's decision-making on 4th down is questionable. He's definitely not the smartest, and he gets a bit ballsy.
Yeah, I get being aggressive, but it's just a little much, especially with the Super Bowl on the line. To try and be that aggressive is a little bit too much with running the risks that they were running. All
right, so the momentum of the game would definitely shift after the stop by the 49ers. This is when, the mentality of everything got towards the Lions, and you could tell they started playing completely different compared to the first half of the game. I mean, as you said earlier, that interception Jared Goff threw was huge for the 49ers, and it seemed to really affect the Lions mentally in the second half of the game. After that stop, the 49ers would then get the ball back and go on a 5-play, 72-yard drive, ended by a 6-yard touchdown catch by Brendan Ayuk. And the 49ers were definitely able to capitalize more than the Lions in the third quarter on top of that. And then on the next drive, the Lions, for offense, they had the rookie sensation running back Jahmyr Gibbs would go on a fumble for the very first play of this drive, which was, the huge play for this quarter. The 49ers then would go on a 5-play, 72-yard drive, ended by a 6-yard touchdown by Brendan Ayuk. And, overall for this quarter, the 49ers were able to capitalize on fourth down conversions by Dan Campbell's decision-making being really poor. And it seemed to really affect the end game. The 49ers would then go on a 5-play, 72-yard drive, ended by a 6-yard touchdown catch by Brendan Ayuk. The 49ers were definitely able to capitalize more on offense in the third quarter compared to the Lions' offensive, areas. Considering the fumble was huge for them in the third quarter, causing a lot of mental mistakes and errors for the Lions. All right, so moving on to the fourth quarter. Considering how they managed to throw their insurance points away down the drain in the third, what were your thoughts on the fourth quarter and Dan Campbell's decision-making? Do you think he's allergic to field goals, or is he just flat-out stupid?
Well, okay, let's take a look first at how the Lions played. I think they really slammed on the brakes hard here, and not just the fourth, but really the third quarter. And it really showed. Like they were not completing drives. They could not finish for anything. The defense had them covered all game long, or all half long, in the second half. I think the stadium noise was also one of the things that really played into it. Once they got out of the locker room, crowd started getting louder, and it kind of started to shake the Lions, I feel like, especially Goff. I think it really started to get to Goff, and you could really see it. I don't really know what to say about the fourth down attempt, except for that it was just a plain stupid decision with the Super Bowl on the line. Like, you're a professional coach. You have to make those hard decisions sometimes.
Not even that. It could have changed the game at that point, considering it was 24-27 in the third. It could have tied the game, and they could have went into OT, and it could have been, a completely different end game overall.
Yeah.
For who knows, the Lions could have won and went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it could have been a much better outcome for them, but they kind of just, I think, made the wrong decision there, and it cost them. If they had been less greedy and just tried to go with a field goal, would have sent them into overtime, and they probably could have won the game that way. If they got possession of the ball, won the coin toss in overtime, I think they would have been in much better shape than obviously they were.
Yeah.
Considering that they hadn't gone for the field goal. And you know what? They paid for it. And it obviously was the biggest factor to losing in the game. So that's all I have to say about that.
Now, we're stuck with seeing the Super Bowl nobody wanted to see. It's just a repeat of, the last Super Bowl with the Chiefs and the 49ers.
The 2020 Super Bowl, yeah.
Everybody wanted to see the Lions. It would be their first, go at the Super Bowl ever in history for them.
Well, I think they're a pretty young team. I think they have a good future with Dan Campbell, and we could possibly see them here next year again in the same spot. But hopefully
he learns from his mistakes and his bad ideas of coaching.
And tone down the aggression a little bit, and maybe we'll get a Lions Super Bowl next year. But now we're stuck with Taylor Swift and the Chiefs. Okay, that's all we have here for you today. Up next on Left Bench Sports will be Jake Minardi talking about college basketball, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hello and welcome back to Left Bench. I have another week of college basketball coverage here today. We have another new AP poll along with new teams making features, some people think were snubbed. Alabama makes their way into the top 25 at number 24. Iowa State has really proved how good they are. They move up to the 12th spot. So the top 5 has stayed the exact same as it should have. As said last week, UConn sitting comfortably at that number 1 spot. Purdue is right behind them. UNC is going to face a big challenge this week with Duke, but before that they had to face Georgia Tech earlier this week, and surprisingly, with the way they've been playing, they gave up a loss to a 10-11 Georgia Tech. Honestly, I'm not even surprised by any upsets anymore this season just because there's way too many to count every week. And I really can't say anything about this loss going into the Duke game because Duke took a loss to the same exact team. But I'm looking forward to this game, and I think it could be a different outcome than what people are saying. Speaking about Duke, they made their way back into the top 10, placed at number 7. People disagree with this decision, but I think it's correct. They've collected a few wins after losing to Pitt a little over a week ago. They obviously need to improve a little, but I think their ceiling is way higher than the way they're actually playing right now. They had a nicer win on the road Monday night against Virginia Tech, a place that they usually struggle with. But last Saturday, we saw a very close win by 1 point to Clemson. It was pretty controversial, some questionable calls at the end, but agree with it or not, they come away with the win, and I really think they just won an ugly one here. But the past 2 wins, I think what we're seeing from them is just full team wins. I mean, everyone's just contributing. A guy who I mentioned last week is Jared McCain. He's been huge in the past 2 games. Against Clemson, he had 21 and that steal and a layup near the end. And in a game like that against Virginia Tech where, his shots weren't falling as much, he impacted the game in so many other ways. And then you got other guys like Proctor making an impact. Proctor's been playing great. In the past 3 games, he's been averaging 18 points per game, 3.7 assists, and shooting well over 50% from the 3 in the field. But Roach is playing good even on that weak ankle, and Ryan Young actually stepped up big in this one. Kyle Filipowski is always going to be, their best player and a big threat, so expect a good one against UNC this weekend. I think the right guys are stepping up at the right time, so I'll have my predictions for some of the bigger games at the end. Right in front of Duke, you see Wisconsin. They've also been looking really good, but they finally gained a lot of respect, and then they actually just took a loss to Nebraska. But I don't want to shame them too much on this loss. Nebraska played lights out. They also lost to Northwestern last week, but same thing with Northwestern. It seems like Nebraska's just invincible to beat on the road, and Northwestern is also a very good team in the Big Ten. So while I think Wisconsin is still a really good team, I don't necessarily think they're the 6th best team in the country. So to be honest, I don't really know where they fit. But I don't want to bash them because of the 2 losses. As I said, everyone loses games on the road, especially against Nebraska. I mean, they took down Purdue just 2 weeks ago. So, but Wisconsin, I don't think they're the top 6 team in the country. Going back to them, in front of Wisconsin is still Tennessee. They, of course, took a huge loss to South Carolina, a team who took down number 6 Kentucky a week ago. I mean, at this point, it's pretty obvious that they need to be ranked. At this point, they proved they're legit. 2 top 10 teams taken down in the past week. And honestly, I'm just surprised they're not ranked already. Looking at Houston, they picked up another big one on Monday night on the road versus Texas. I mean, when you look at that, that's just such a hard game to win. On the road, sellout crowd. They take it into overtime, and, I think Houston is just as good as their number 4 ranking says they are, They face a tough matchup versus Kansas this weekend, and I actually think that game is going to go their way. Now I just want to take a look at the teams around the number 10 spot. Kansas has been placed at number 8 this week. Listen, I said it last week. I'm not that impressed with their play recently. I think Marquette could be even a little better right now as they've been playing pretty well. But they do face Houston this weekend. This is going to be the real test for them. And unless they prove me wrong this weekend, I'm not too impressed with them this year. Marquette in Kentucky is just behind Kansas. I like the way Marquette is playing. They're on a 5-game win streak. Not so much Kentucky, though. They just took a really tough loss to Florida. And before that, obviously, we know about the South Carolina game. But even right after this, it looked like they were kind of struggling against Arkansas, and it wasn't until the end until they pulled away. Obviously, wins are wins, but their defense doesn't look good at all, and I think that's the main problem with them recently. They're an offensive powerhouse filled with just so much talent, but when I'm watching them, I just really see a weak defense, and I think if they improve on that side of the ball, then wins are going to start coming back to them. And anyone who plays basketball knows how important playing good defense is, and the way you play defense really, that just sets up your offense. But now the two spots behind them, looking at Arizona and Iowa State, I think Iowa State clears Arizona, to be honest. They've racked up quite a few impressive wins. They continue to pick up speed and improve. A guy I want to mention is Kenshin Gilbert. He's been playing really good, averaging 16.8 points per game and racking up about 6.8 boards in their last 4 games. And he's really stepped up well in his guard role. He spent his first 2 seasons at UNLV, and he transferred over to Iowa State in 2023, and he's been playing even better than he did there. So I look forward to seeing Iowa State play Baylor this weekend. It's going to be another great game for Iowa State, a good one to prove how good they are and to start putting even more people on notice. But now I'm going to move on to what I did last week. I'm going to give who I think are the top 15 teams in the country again. I'm not going to give too much of an explanation. I already covered a bunch of these teams, but let's get right into it. Number 1, UConn, Purdue. Obvious choices here, by far the most dominant teams in the country. 3, I'm just going to make a bold move real quick and throw Houston at 3. UNC just took a loss to Georgia Tech, and it didn't look that good. And depending on how they play it against Duke this weekend, that's going to help me determine where they sit even better. But, I don't like to do that. They've been playing really good recently, and I don't like to move them down after one loss. But I think Duke might be able to pull this one through this weekend. So I'll throw them right at 4 after Houston. And, again, I don't want to make too much of a bold move, so I'll just keep Tennessee at 5 for now. Got to see them prove themselves this weekend against Kentucky because I feel like some teams behind them could be creeping up on them. Number 6, I like Duke right after. I think they're a little bit better than Wisconsin, and I'll leave Wisconsin there at 7. I like the way they still look. Number 8, I'm going to take Marquette over Kansas, who I'll slide back down to number 9. And number 9, I think Kansas really needs to prove themselves against Houston on Saturday. I mean, like I said, I like Marquette over them right now, and I don't think they're that strong of a Kansas team, as we usually see every year. But 10, I'm actually going to place Iowa State here. Kentucky's taken some tough losses, and they look a little rough on defense. Iowa State, I think, is just a hotter team as of right now. And, I'll leave Kentucky right behind them at 11, 12, Arizona, and then the teams behind them basically the same, 13, Creighton, 14, Illinois, and then 15, got to be the boldest move. Give me South Carolina. Taking down 2 top 10 teams in the past week, they just can't be ignored. They sit at 18-3 and second in the SEC, and I mean they just look legit. It's maybe too high of a ranking, some people could say, but I think they're better at Texas Tech. Looking at the teams right behind them, I think they're better than Texas Tech. I think Auburn too. Auburn kind of got exposed last week for their lighter schedule, and definitely the rest of the teams in the top 25. You got some Mountain West teams and some other teams who I think. South Carolina's just proved a little bit more than them, and they look a little bit more legit. But the only team who I think I could put above them is Alabama, just because they got that really big win against them 2 weeks ago. But just to wrap up the segment real quick, I have predictions for the bigger games that are going down this Saturday. First game, number 4 Houston taking on number 8 Kansas. Not going to say too much. I've already explained that Houston's been playing pretty good, and I already explained the way I feel about Kansas, so I'm going to take number 4 Houston in this one. My second prediction, UNC versus Duke at 6:30 Eastern Time. Give me Duke in a one-possession game. I think they're starting to heat back up at the right time. All the guys are stepping up, and I could see, I see Tyrese Proctor hitting a clutch shot to give Duke this one in Chapel Hill. Third prediction, I think Iowa State is going to take down Baylor. don't really think Baylor is that good, especially compared to Iowa State and the way they've been playing. And final and fourth prediction is for the Tennessee and Kentucky game. I could see this game going either way, to be honest, and it's a tough decision to make, but I could sort of see the guys in Kentucky having just an amazing game on the offensive side and taking this one, but I'm going to go with the slightly safer pick and take Tennessee. Zalton Connect has still been very impressive. You know, looking back at the South Carolina game, he hit so many tough shots at the end of the game to try and put him back in it, even though they still lost. And I think Tennessee just looks a little bit more well-rounded as of recent. But with that being said, that's all I got for this week. Don't go anywhere because next up, Luke and Myles are talking about the NBA.
Welcome back to Left Bench Sports. We both split our picks last week as I correctly picked the Chiefs and Luke correctly picked the 49ers. This week we'll be talking about the NBA All-Star voting and the NBA trade deadline. Luke, with the starters being announced, who's the biggest snub for the All-Star starters?
For sure, Jalen Brunson. He definitely deserved to be in the game. I know I'm a Knicks fan, and I might be a little biased, but he definitely deserved it. I mean, he's averaging 26 and 6. Every game, he's the guy. Like, at the end of the game, a close game, he's going to be the one with the ball in his hands. He's been better with Julius Randle out, just stepping up. You're like, Julius Randle's out, another superstar player who's going to step up. It's just going to be Jalen Brunson. He's the best player on the team. He's had great efficiency, and he's just better than Damian Lillard. It's just Damian Lillard. I mean, he's a bigger name, and that's why they gave it to him in the end.
Yeah, unfortunately, as a Celtics fan, I have to agree with you. There really is no reason why Brunson didn't get in as a starter. Dame just got in off of name brand alone. But, like, what I find confusing is that Brunson plays in New York, right? The fans love him. Everybody loves Jalen Brunson. I don't really understand how he didn't get in off of fan voting, which is pretty stupid. But it's just a weird take to have Damian Lillard over Jalen Brunson in the All-Star game for the guard position. But my biggest snub is Steph Curry or Devin Booker. Really, they should have got in over LeBron in some way. It's just really, there's no reason for having LeBron in. I get it, he's having a good season, not great, but a good season. But, I mean, Devin Booker just dropped 62 points. I mean, like, what are we doing? Booker's averaging 28 and 7. The Suns' big three has rarely ever played together, and when they have, it's just been Booker. He's been the best passer on the team. He's taken over the Chris Paul role, and he's averaging, normal Devin Booker numbers. Curry, on the other hand, is not having a great season like LeBron. The Warriors obviously aren't doing that great, but Curry's averaging 26 and 5, and he's carrying the Warriors. I mean, without him, they'd probably be at like the Pistons level with how bad they've been. As for LeBron, there's really no reason to have him. The Lakers are so trash this year, but because LeBron brings in so much just name brand revenue and all that stuff, they kind of have to have him in, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree. The Warriors, I mean, without Curry, they'd be terrible. You watch them play, and it's just they have no one else who could do anything. It's like you expect other guys, like Klay Thompson was good, but he just can't do anything anymore. You can see he can't run. His knees, he just can't get going anymore. Draymond Green, he's a solid player, been suspended a couple times this year, but he still doesn't do anything for their offense. It's really Curry's their entire offense.
Yeah, a hot debate around the league is, do you think Derek White is an all-star, Luke?
No.
No, why is that?
Because he's like the fourth or fifth guy on the Celtics. It's not like he's like their guy. Like Tatum should have been an all-star, or should be an all-star, he is. And like maybe Jaylen Brown. I don't know if he's having a great year, but he could have been. But Derek White isn't that good, or he deserves to be an all-star.
As a Celtics fan, I obviously want him to get in, but it's just like he's a role player, and he's the best role player on the best team. Draymond got in all those years. Why can't Derek White, right? I mean, he's averaging like 17 and 6 on all NBA level defense. So I feel like he should get in. I know most people don't agree with that, but I'm voting for him.
Yeah, maybe he will. I don't know. The reserves are being announced tonight. We'll see who gets in. Jalen Brunson could get in, or will get in. And with the trade deadline coming up, who do you think is going to get traded?
I think DeJounte Murray's definitely going to get traded. I mean, he's just been so unhappy with how things have gone down in Atlanta. He's just been annoyed at Trae Young, it seems like, from the start. Trae's a very ball-dominant player. They've tried to turn him in what Steph Curry is, but nobody's ever going to be like what Steph Curry is in terms of off-ball shooting. I mean, Trae's just an inefficient shot chucker. I mean, there's really no difference between him and Jordan Poole, in my opinion. They're both undersized guards, don't really care about defense. But DeJounte, on the other hand, he's a pretty good defender, good ball handler, good scorer. I could see him either going to the Knicks or Lakers. I know you obviously want him as a Knicks fan, but you might have to give up a little bit. But what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think he will get traded. For a while, I wanted him to go to the Knicks, and then we traded for OG Anunoby, and we've had 2 losses since that trade. And I just don't really think it's worth it, whatever we'd have to give up for him anymore. I mean, he hasn't changed things around in Atlanta. He's supposed to come in and be a second guard with Trae Young, be a great defender. And he's good, but he's not a superstar. He's not like the guy that you're going to build a team around. And as the Knicks, if we were going to trade for someone, I'd rather it be a guy like Mikal Bridges. If we were going to give up all those picks and everything. But yeah, I mean, the Knicks were 1 game out of the 2 seed in the East. And yeah, they're just playing great right now. So I wouldn't change much. I may add some depth to the team, but I'd keep the starting lineup right now as they just continue to play great.
Yeah, you guys are really peaking right now. As you said, 14-2 over your last 16. That's best record in the NBA, obviously. But I think the Lakers could be obviously a destination. As I said, D'Angelo Russell, he's been going off as of late, but the Hawks don't seem to want him. They were going to trade D'Lo a first, but it seems like they want Austin Reeves. So I don't really know if he could go to the Lakers. Maybe he just stays put, but that really seems highly unlikely right now.
Yeah, I don't know if he wants to stay, but I don't think other teams are willing to give up what Atlanta's looking for, so maybe he will stay. I think he wants out, and I think it's better off for them if they trade him, but they're going to be asking a lot, and I'm not sure if other teams are willing to give up that much.
Yeah, who else do you think is going to get traded at the deadline?
I think there could be a couple guys from the Utah Jazz. Lauri Markkanen, a 7-foot forward who can shoot really well. An expiring contract, and yeah, I think he's a great player that could go on and be a fit for any team.
Yeah, I mean, Lauri's really the perfect fit for any team. He's got that Drew Holiday quality. You put him on a team and he just does well. It doesn't really matter where he's at. He's improved his game so much going to Utah. I think, as you said, Jordan Clarkson also could be a really nice fit anywhere he goes. He's more of your traditional off the bench, give you 16 a night, and then doesn't play any defense and then just sits fourth quarter. But most teams need that. Scoring always has a place on an NBA roster, and I think Clarkson could be a really interesting trade target.
Yeah, that's who I think I would want for the Knicks is Jordan Clarkson, because we could use another guard off the bench. Giving away quickly for Anunoby. They need another guard off the bench who could score. Their bench has him as scoring as well. So they need one of those guys who's just going to come in, score a little bit, play 15, 20 minutes. And yeah, and Markkanen, I mean, in this new NBA, he could fit on any team in the league. If you could shoot threes, you're 7 foot, any team in the league will take you.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing is that his defensive ability is not that great. The Knicks are kind of built on defense, but if you can balance out the offense, I don't really see how that would matter. Having a stretch 4, maybe even a stretch 5 at sometimes. Obviously with Hartenstein playing, and he's not really great, but he's good. He cleans up the boards well. But having a stretch 5 could really separate themselves from other contenders in their same level.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, that's all we have for this week. See you next week on Left Bench Sports.